Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. Those interviews are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to competitive teams, racers, rock crawlers, business owners, employees, media, and private park owners, men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active and off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive-focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, we have Chris Brahs, president of Outlaw Desert Racing Series, and Drew Garcia, the vice president of the Outlaw Desert Racing Series. We're going to find out more about these guys and their 501c3 nonprofit and their adrenaline therapy program that they're doing with their off-road racing. But before we get into the racing, let's get into your guys' background. But thank you for coming on board.
Thank you, Rich. Happy New Year, and we're excited about this.
Awesome. And Drew?
Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year to everybody out there.
Yeah, it is New Year's Day for anybody that's going to listen to this podcast, which I'm sure there's going to be plenty of you. So let's jump right in. And Chris, where were you born and raised?
I was born in Eastern Washington, and in 1980 we moved to Idaho to the family ranch, and grew up there a couple times back and forth to Washington to help my grandfather out with the livestock auction yard that he built, and with his age and whatnot. But finalized high school and stuff in in Idaho State, and went to the military after that for 7.5 years, and combat rescue, helicopter crew chief, and the last year I was security forces, law enforcement, and that's about that for the first bump in the road in my life, I guess you'd say.
Okay, and what part of Idaho is that?
McCall, 100 miles north of Boise.
Yep. Okay.
Up in the mountains, 5,000 foot elevation, lots of snow, year-round recreation, snowmobiling, skiing, hunting, hiking, fishing, camping, everything that you can think of. The valley that I lived in, it's Valley County, actually, is the name of the county. Back then, they had 1,100 or 1,200 miles of groomed trail in the wintertime for snowmobiling. So, yeah, I used to ride the snowmobile to school every once in a while. I mean, we lived 28 miles from town, and then moved a little bit closer to town. But it was, or 18 miles from town, excuse me, but yeah, there's a few times I rode the snowmobile to school because if the county plow couldn't keep up, that's the only time we got snow days.
Right. And how about you, Drew?
Well, I was born in 1973. I'm 49 years old now, and I was born in Camp Lejeune in North Carolina on the military base. My dad was in the Marines, so I was a Marine brat most of growing up till I was about 15. Ended up in California, San Diego, where my dad was stationed there. And yeah, that's kind of some of my roots there. And then my family's from New Mexico, from Albuquerque and Clayton area. So I would go back and forth. And yeah, that's pretty much my roots there. Grew up, went to high school, played football, college football, and then I played semi-pro football for about 7 years. I was a defensive nose tackle. And during that time, I was always into off-roading. So I was up at Apple Valley, California. So high desert was right there, Lucerne Valley, Barstow, Johnson Valley. So I've been doing pre-runners and rock crawling since I could ever remember. And, friends and neighbors had them. So it was just a dream that's what I was going to do when I grew up. So yeah, those are my roots. And finally came back with the family back in Albuquerque, settled here. This is where I met my wife. I have two wonderful children, and they're all grown up out of college now. So, just work hard, play hard.
Right. And so you obviously were playing sports and stuff. If football and into college and stuff, and then semi-pro. Chris, did you being that far out from school, was it harder to be involved with sports?
No, football. I don't know if it was a bless or a curse, but being one of the biggest kids in the class, when where I grew up, it was a little town. There was 3,500 people year round that permanent residents, and then it was a resort town. So like winter carnival, last week of January, first week of February, there'd be 1 million people come through town. So the funny thing is, I was talking to a buddy of mine about this the other day. Actually, is elementary and high school was in McCall, and middle school was in Donley, 11 miles south. So when we ended sixth grade in McCall, the last couple of weeks we had a field trip to the junior high and toured the school, met the teachers, and I remember walking into Mr. King's class. He was the math teacher and also the football coach, and the first words out of his mouth was not, "Hey Chris, nice to meet you." It was, "Hey Chris, are you going to play football?" So of course I played football and then got into wrestling when I was in high school and broke my wrist my sophomore year in wrestling. I was the lightest heavyweight in the state. I would have to drink a gallon of water to make weight, while everybody else is wearing their rubber suits to sweat out and starving themselves and running laps before weigh-ins. I was sitting in the corner eating and drinking to make weight. But ended up kind of ending my sports career my junior year because of the wrist, but then went back to it my senior year. I broke my wrist at regionals in wrestling. I was wrestling first round. I was wrestling the heaviest heavyweight in the state. He was one of the guys running in a suit and trying to starve himself to make weight. I ended up beating him, but in the process, I broke my right wrist. So it kind of screwed me up for my junior year of sports. After that, it was military. Spent a year in Korea. Then came to Albuquerque at Kirtland Air Force Base and finished my military career there. They said, "You've got too many medical problems. You need to see you later," basically. So 90% disabled from the VA right now. And after the military, divorced, moved back to Idaho for a couple of years and got on a top fuel dragster team and running the country there, and then touring the country, the Northwest and stuff on the team, building engines. I was top left side, in charge of building all the cylinder heads between races, getting everything prepped. And then moved back to Albuquerque because I couldn't stand being away from my kids. I got 4 kids, 3 boys and a daughter, and needed to be closer to them. So literally sold my Peterbilt and my trailer because I ended up hauling cattle for my mom and dad for a couple of years too. And moved to Albuquerque, loaded up my Chevy pickup and a U-Haul trailer with no place to live and no job. Got in the automotive business because I've been a mechanic all my life, and then ended up starting my own shop a few years ago. and then sold it 4 years ago. Drew came to me and said, "Hey, let's get the Outlaw Desert Racing thing back alive because it kind of faded for a little bit."
Right.
So he's like, "Let's do this." So we're like, "Okay, let's go." So I think that what year was that, Drew? Like 2013 or no,
Yeah.
2004,
About,
14,
I think
15
14. Yeah, because we had the big Cinco de Baja in 2012, and Rich, you and your wife came by in Albuquerque to visit us to watch that race.
Right. We were down there with Gomez's.
Right.
Hey, yeah, so yeah, it was a while back.
Yeah, that was their
So
first race.
Oh wow!
I think
really?
in 2000, gosh dang, it's already 2023. Time is just cruising by. But anyway, we decided to turn Outlaw Desert Racing into a nonprofit for military and first responder suicide prevention. And when we kicked that off, we only had 425 people following the page on our Facebook page. And just yesterday morning, we are at 89,000.
Wow, that's great growth.
So over the last 3 months, 2.5 to 3 months, 3 months ago, we were only at like 10,000 people, like 10,500 people. And we've grown 70,000 people in 3 months. So the growth has just been astronomical, and we're pretty blessed about that. We're actually starting to have companies contact us to help us out, which is great.
So, what do you attribute that growth to? I know there's a lot of people out there who would love to see that kind of growth.
Well, I think I stopped being a little bit political on my personal page because I was spending a lot of time in Facebook jail, so Drew was having to run the page on his own, and I was down for 30 days, and it was just like, oh my goodness. So now I just post about my dogs and the Can-Am build and my family, and that's it. And we kind of figured out that making reels has been the ticket. And I think we've got a video with Harley Lentner at the Parker 425 coming over a hill and almost taking out a media guy. The media guy was in the wrong spot he was on an outside corner on the track, and Harley almost took him out. But that video's got over 20 million views.
Wow.
And I think that was the kickoff. I think it's 50 or 60,000 shares, something like that. It's just incredible. So I think that's the video that really kicked things off for our growth. And we're like, hey, if we start making more reels, I think that's the ticket. So then we started looking at static posts like pictures or sharing posts from other racing organizations, and we got very little insights, very little traffic on those, but we're getting astronomical traffic on the videos. So we're kind of just sticking with the videos. It's working, and we just received a partial sponsorship from GoPro, so we were able to purchase some new equipment, which is great.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
And how long are the reels that you're putting together?
We're trying to make them over 60 seconds. I think that's the key. We're getting a lot of traffic on the ones that are less than a minute. But to capitalize on all the stuff with Facebook and Instagram, the 60-second plus videos are the key item.
Shelly and I have been talking about doing more reels, and it's not difficult. It's just more time consuming. But if you want to build it, it's what has to happen.
Exactly, and this is social media is almost turned into a full-time job. It's mind blowing, the growth. At one point, for 28-day stats, we were reaching 24.5 million people in 28 days. It's the holiday season, so we're down right now. I think I look every day to keep track of our stats and see where we're at. But I think we're down to 17.2 or 17.3 million people still in 28 days. So we're getting our reach out there, and more and more people are knowing what we do with the media and the veteran support and the first responder support, and providing pit support for a few race teams. Some of our sponsors actually race, so we do our best to try to afford to get to a race. Right now we're raising money to get to the Mint in March, and we're going to provide pit support for Metal Center, one of our sponsors here in town. And they've got they run the unlimited class and the side-by-side, running a Can-Am. And so we give rides and stuff at the pre-run if we can, if it's allowed by the racing organization. But yeah, we're growing, and our reach is getting out there. We're actually global now. We've got people following us literally all over the world, saying, "Hey, we're from South Africa," or "Hey, we're from Europe or Britain," all over the world. It's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, we got some, a lot of fans out there in Saudi Arabia and Indonesia and stuff, and they love the Dakar stuff. So that's why right now we're, trying to showcase some reels and stuff from Dakar. They love the big trucks, and so we're putting that on there. I also wanted to mention that, Outlaw Desert Racing, the direction we're going in, we're trying to support all race organizations. So, like We Rock and, a lot of the local motocross tracks to Store, Southwest Racing, Southwest Texas Off-Road Racing Association, Texas, and all Texas organizations, and then all the rock crawling, rock racing, whatever we can cover. We're trying to help share the love for that. And then also like Legacy, Best in the Desert, and then Martelli's Mint 400. And then again, like Chris was saying, we're trying to support them and, show up at those events and do media coverage on it. And I think that's what's also helping us explode.
Yeah, I agree. The getting out there and being part of it instead of just running your own little show really helps. And little, I don't mean that. I meant, you're condensed in just worrying about that. I think really does help with your reach. I know that you guys help the Borans during the rock crawling season, and at least
Yes.
Chris has been up to Farmington for our rock crawls. Did you make it
Yeah,
as well, Drew?
that was Drew that went.
Oh,
I
okay.
was unable to go. So that's the good thing, that the teamwork that Drew and I have created. We try to at least one of us go to an event, a local event, to try to support, especially local stuff. Like the Moriarty motocross track, it's only about a 20-25 minute drive for each one of us. So we're going to do some stuff in 2023 with the local motocross track, and they've got some veterans classes. So we go out there and support them and provide media for those guys. Like I said, we're going to go to the Mint. We actually got into drag racing. I'm on a no prep big tire team here out of Corrales, New Mexico, a little suburb of Albuquerque, and we've been traveling Texas and New Mexico, and we're looking at doing some MPK stuff next year. 2023, we're going to be doing some MPK stuff. That's in the plans. So earlier in March of 22, we had a race in Odessa at the Penwell Knights drag strip in Odessa. And we created a host a veteran challenge about a month and a half to 2 months before the race. And it went viral. We had Matt from Total Seal Piston Rings get on board, and they took two veterans, provided tickets, put them in the pits, gave them the total hospitality, had them up there on the starting line with Matt's Pro Stock team. We had a couple of top fuel teams that that were wanting to do it as well, and plan on doing it in 23. We had 25 teams at the race in Odessa have veterans on their team and treated them as if they were a team member, bought them their wristbands and had them right there on the starting line. And a few teams even had them working on the car to turn the car around for the next round. So it was great. We had Ray Abels out of Eastern New Mexico. He spent over $2,000 of his own money to have a barbecue company out of Odessa come and cater for all of the veterans and all of the teams that were part of the challenge. So we got a lot of media on that as well. The veteran that was on our team, he was pretty standoffish at first, combat vet, saw some pretty nasty things over there in Iraq and Afghanistan area. And by the end of the day, he had a smile on his face that was from ear to ear. I don't think Chuck Norris could even kick the smile off this guy's face. He was excited about it the next day. On Saturday, he came to the track and, okay, guys, what do we got to do? And we had to almost kind of slow him down. It's like, okay, Speedy, we're gonna take this thing one bite at a time, just like we did in the military. But we have a goal, and that is to win each round and try to win the event. And we ended up going out, but we took him to the start line to watch other races, and he was just ecstatic. And all of the veterans that were part of the challenge were something that they've never experienced before. At that, it's different sitting in the stands than being a part of the team and right next to 4,000 horsepower in a no prep car under a blown Hemi, doing a burnout and taking everybody's hats off their heads and throwing them in the stands from the exhaust, and being right there versus being in the stands. It was fantastic.
Well, that's cool. That's awesome. So when you guys started Outlaw in, like you said, 2012 or thereabouts, was that first race that 250 that we showed up at? It was like the La Cabra or something like that.
Cinco de Baja.
Oh, Cinco de Baja. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Ultra 4 came out. Dave Cole, we had reached out to him, and we're like, hey, we're bringing in BRT. That was Baja Racing Texas at the time. And they were coming down to Albuquerque. We were going to conjoin organizations, and that's when we got a hold of Dave Cole, and he's like, yeah, I'd love to come. We're looking for new places. So he came on down, checked it out, and yeah, they had a good time. So, I hope in the future we can do that again, maybe with you guys or, with Dave Cole or somebody, and make that race happen again. But it goes back way farther than that. Outlaw Desert Racing's been around for like 25 years. And we were always racing based out of Albuquerque, New Mexico at the casino, Route 66 out there. And back in the day, XRRA, Extreme Rock Racing Association, with Mike and Jody, Todd Wormkessel. Todd lives in Albuquerque, Rio Rancho. And we were, doing the local racing, and he was all full blown into the rock crawling and rock racing. And he had approached me and said, hey, Drew, we should, conjoin this. Let's get some rock racers out here. So we opened it up to them. And actually, I think it was 2010, 2009. I'm not sure, when KO8 started getting big. The guys that had moon buggies or on air shocks or regular shocks, they started showing up at our races. Levi Shirley and his dad, they came all the way from Dodge City, Kansas, just to test. And then Lauren Healy was racing with us. He started with us in Albuquerque when he started racing. And then, Cotton Rod, Randy Rod, at the time, they were bringing all their cars down, and everybody started testing and started getting on the coilover. So I feel like Outlaw Desert Racing kind of contributed to, the transformation of rock racing to this day. But that was a great deal. And then I don't know if you knew, I also worked for XRRA back in the day. I was an announcer for them. I did the Nationals in Jellicoe, Tennessee, and got to go to Colorado and got to go to some cool places also. So that was pretty fun. But I brought all that back and tried to contribute it, into outlaw desert racing at the time. And that's how it kind of molded. And we always had, all the classes, and it was always open to UTV, ATV, dirt bike, and then the trucks, buggies, and then the rock race class. So yeah, it's came a long way. It's pretty cool.
So the association or the racing series was going on before you got involved, or?
Yeah, I actually I've been with Outlaw Desert Racing for over 20 years. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Rich, back in the day, a bunch of guys would go out in the desert and peel out money out of their wallet, mark off a course, and winner take all, kind of like, street racing. Just go find a place, and there's nothing really organized, or televised, or, advertised or anything. It was kind of hush hush. Let's go out in the desert and go win some money type deal. And it evolved into what it is today, which is pretty great to look back on the history. And Drew is one of the founding members, over 20 years ago. And we really would like to bring, put on some races, but right now it's, lately it's difficult to find the land. That's our hurdle right now. So if there's any landowners in New Mexico that are listening to this that wouldn't mind putting on a race, maybe we can get with We Rock and create kind of a mini KOH, where it's bringing the desert, introducing the desert into rock crawling, kind of a genre race type deal. But we're needing some land to be able to put on a race for our stuff again.
I understand that part. When we were doing the dirt ride endurance racing, the East Coast was actually easier because they're all parks. And as long as you could, find enough parks that would go, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and put on a race, we were great. On the public lands of the western United States, it became much more difficult. One of the things that I always was really concerned about was, keeping the spectators safe, and, having an open area was always a challenge because you couldn't cover enough access points to keep intrusions from happening. That exactly. The spectators getting on the course or crossing the course, or people not even knowing there's a race, even though they've just driven past signs that say active race course, ahead, do not enter, and people would still enter. And then you always get the people that want to get selfies and get too close to the racetrack. And that was one of the things that really drove me nuts with it. And, we stopped operation in 2019, and we looked brilliant for doing that, because we never would have been able to carry that many events. We even had to cut the rock crawling series down because of COVID. But the racing became much more difficult, trying to find property and dealing with the public agencies, BLM, was extremely difficult. Have you guys ever worked with the Farmington office?
Yes, we work closely with the New Mexico Game and Fish. Desi Ortiz, he's great for us. We'll get into the land, the OHV grants that we've received from them to help the public. But that has definitely been a challenge for us with the New Mexico Land Trust. Now, when we had all our previous races, we always had our right of entry with the New Mexico Land Trust. We had our insurance. Game and Fish would oversee us, police us, and everything was solid, good on safety, and all our events were policed. But since COVID happened, our New Mexico Land Trust commissioner wouldn't even have a meeting with us. They wouldn't sit down with us. They didn't want to discuss any recreation or motorsports. So that definitely hurt us and was a bad impact for New Mexico off-road recreation for off-road events. Now, if it was private, like you said, at the motorsports parks, then yeah, that absolutely. But, our format of racing, I mean, we need at least 7 to 30 miles to have a race or more. And that just was not doable. The challenges that we did have, we were racing on private ranches, but those ranch owners were pressured by the state, and they were getting worried, letting us race on their land, that it was going to come back on them. So that was definitely an issue. So we had to stop. We haven't had a race in New Mexico the last 2 years, I believe, Chris.
Yeah,
Has it been 2 years?
I think 19 or 20. 19 was our last, the Independence 243 down in Berlin.
Yeah, so
was our last race.
Yeah, so, we had to think of, Outlaw Desert Racing can't stop. We're starting to build, we're moving in a great position. So that's when, Chris, we decided, he's the president, I'm vice president. I didn't want to be president anymore because I did it, for 20 years. He had a lot of great ideas, and he's a veteran. And I just love the idea of, the veteran support and the first responder support. And, we had veterans around us. It was great. So we started going on UTV rides, off-road rides. I take my rock crawler. I've got a Jimmy's 4x4 rock crawler from Randy Rod. Also got a full-blown pre-runner Ford Ranger with long travel. Also got a Bronco. And then Chris has a brand new Can-Am X3 full blown, built up, and we use that for the adrenaline therapy. So we just started giving rides, and then we realized that, this is the way to go. Let's help support these guys and give them free rides. If they have PTSD or suicide issues, let's get them out there and at least have a day of comfort, and let's feed them and feed their families. And, that it just, it was awesome, to see the reaction from everybody and the love and support. And so that's when the direction turned, and we're like, hey, let's also, the racers, we can't have races here in New Mexico, so let's support them at other race organizations. If it's a veteran, he's trying to race and he needs pit support, let's try to get there. So, and that's how it's evolved. And now we're also getting, veterans and just regular guys, whoever wants to come help crew for these teams. That's what we're doing. We just had our last race in El Paso, and I think we crewed for like 4 teams. And we had companies like Desert Junkies. They came out, and we had there were some other ones, Red Tide Canopies, and just a bunch of other players that just came out and helped us with pit support, and it turned into be a great thing. So now, we're getting ready for the Mint 400, Haskell Wright, and like you said, Herman Johnson from Metal Center. We'll be crewing for those cars, and, it's just a great thing.
And so doing, not doing the races over the last 2 years, I know a lot of that had to do with the government. They shut down pretty heavily. New Mexico was probably one of the most shut down states.
Yes.
Because of the COVID. And I can understand that, especially with the native, Americans that are very prevalent in that area. They're a little more susceptible to the disease for some reason. And I know it became difficult because, like with us, the BLM just said, no, the state says we can't do it, so we're not doing it. And are you guys planning on getting back into the racing side of it, or are you going to keep it as, a veteran, disabled veteran, and first responder support, with the adrenaline therapy program?
I think right now, until we can find some land, we're going to continue with the veteran and the first responder support. That's our mainstay at this moment. We are working with a new team that's forming here in Albuquerque for a bigger class. We had a first responder team, we're a team now, but we had a group of first responders go through our program, and we took them to the Mint 400 back in, was it March of right before COVID? I mean, it was the Mint and everything. COVID just exploded.
Yeah, like the next Saturday, Las Vegas was shut down.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean, we all left Vegas, and then a couple of days later, it was lockdown. So these guys liked it so much that they ended up creating their own side-by-side team called Pratt Racing. And, some of the guys are in the Denver area. Chad here is in Albuquerque, Rio Rancho area. And so we've been providing pit support for them. They were one of the teams that we did the support in El Paso. So they do the grassroots stuff, local races, store down in El Paso, and they did do an Arizona race last year, I think, when things were clearing back up. But we're going to stick with the veteran and first responder and media and pit support until we can find some ground. One of our goals, and it's been kind of a dream of ours, is to be able to raise enough money to either buy the land or get a land grant and create an OHV park that we can have multitude of events on our own, and other organizations coming in and putting on events and whatnot. That's kind of a dream of ours.
Yeah, that's insured year round, so that's our goal.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, eventually, I think that it's going to end up being that, the West is going to have to follow the East Coast, and those private properties are going to be the way to go. Because I just have that feeling, watching, how hard it is to deal with the public agencies, and how more and more areas are being shut down, whether it's regular established off-road areas and trails, that all of a sudden the government says, we don't have the manpower to police those areas. We can't patrol them. We can't keep on them. And I know there's a lot of private organizations that are, clubs and places like Blue Ribbon and stuff that are trying to keep those public lands open to the public for motorized recreation. But, we're not gaining ground. Every once in a while we get a win, but typically it's, we're losing to the environmentalists and the government just doesn't want to go to court
Right.
over things.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we do a lot of community outreach. We're heavily involved with New Mexico. When We Rock comes to Farmington, we try to be there for the Grand Nationals. In all the motocross areas, we try to go to their big final state championships or their events to do media coverage. And then also on the UTV side, the UTVs are exploding. They have the great place called Razorville out in Rio Rancho. It's a great destination for travelers to go and park their RVs and then go play in the Rio Porco where we race Cinco de Baja. It's a beautiful area if you've never been there before. And then, working with community outreach, like I said earlier, New Mexico Game and Fish. I don't know, Chris, you want to elaborate on that, but we got awarded a grant for the OHV fund, and we bought trail trash bags from Champa. Andy made us some bags, and I think we bought $15,000 worth of OHV trash bags, to pack it in, pack it out. So, and we give those away for free. And we cover in all events around New Mexico, from motocross, ATVs, UTVs, all these off-road shows, car shows. We set up our ODR booth and we give out those trash bags for their off-road units. So it's a pretty cool deal.
Absolutely.
I think we gave away 1,250 bags, if my memory serves correctly. I think we only got we only have maybe 2 or 3 bags left.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, and Andy did a really good job making these bags for us. I mean, he put our logo on it, and we worked with Big Kirk out of Gallup with Red Rock Motorsports. He was kind of in on it too. So we had Andy put his logo on it, and working with OHB New Mexico logo, and it's kind of a Cordura canvasy material with metal eyelets, so you can attach it to the chassis of the car with the mesh bottom. So if there's any liquids, they drain with a Velcro opening on top to hold your trash. So if you're out in the trail, you can pick up some trash along the way and help keep the off-road areas clean, so we don't get the shutdowns, because people are just using the desert to, instead of paying the $5 or $6 dump fee to go take their stuff legally, they go out in the desert and trash it. So we've been involved for several years with, cleanup in the desert with Rio Rancho and Sandoval County. I think, Fraserville, we all get together, and the county or the city provides a dumpster. I think one time we did over 60 tons of trash we picked up in a day.
Wow.
So we're heavily involved with the community. We received another grant last year with a company out of Santa Fe, and it was geared on outdoor recreation. So they came and spent 2 days with us with a film crew, shot quite a bit of video. They gave us a couple of videos to use for our social media. And then part of the grant was also giving us some social media classes on different things that Facebook and Instagram uses and how to increase our reach. So I think that was one of the keys as well, why our growth has expanded as fast as it did, because about a month and a half to 2 months after the final class is when we started seeing the growth. And then we're involved with the Queen Creek side-by-side Christmas parade out of Queen Creek, Arizona, in the Phoenix Valley. And the city mayor, the new mayor that takes office here in a couple of days, reached out and said that she wanted to give us a grant for the parade next year. We've been involved with that for a couple of years, and we gather items to mail overseas to the troops that are deployed for Christmas. So I think there was over 1,000 UTVs for Christmas of 22. I was actually at the parade for the Christmas of 21, and it was the biggest event I have ever been to. I mean, we just attended Sand Show this last year in 22. It was probably the biggest trade show that we've ever been to. But as far as a local event, the side-by-side Christmas parade there in Queen Creek, I want to say there was upwards of 1,500 cars in 21. There was definitely well over 1,000 cars in 21. It was phenomenal. 27-mile loop through town, through neighborhoods. Everybody had their cars all lit up and playing Christmas music, and all the residents in the neighborhoods were camped out in their driveways with smudge pots going or barbecues going and waving, and huge community support. And the line was so long from the school that we started from, that when the guys that started the first group came back to the school, there were still people leaving the school.
Wow.
And the loop was 27 miles long.
Holy
So I mean, obviously we got some gaps in some groups because of stoplights and stop signs, and a few groups got lost. Nick Macy and Jen Macy there in Queen Creek, who kick off the organization, they've been busting their tails. For 22, they did the Polaris mapping system. They mapped everything out so everybody can download the app, even if they didn't have a Polaris, and follow the parade route. So now we've got the city of Queen Creek involved in it, and the police department helping us close some roads, at least one lane, to keep things more organized. But it's hard to organize over 1,000 cars. It's like herding cats.
Absolutely. It's hard enough just doing 50 or 60 at a race.
Right. Exactly.
So what is that sounds like that's going to be the future then, is trying to find property and continuing the nonprofit and getting the veterans out there. Are you going to expand out of your home area and do more things like you do with Queen Creek?
Oh, most definitely. You know, we're pretty dedicated to the Southwest Texas off-road racing there in El Paso. Luis and Chris Sines and Naum, we're pretty gelled with those guys to help and support them. They do 4 races a year, so we try to attend every race because it's only a 4-hour drive. The Phoenix Valley, we have a ton of support in the Phoenix Valley. Matter of fact, quite a bit of our sponsors are from the Phoenix Valley. So we're going to try to get some best in the desert races in. Definitely the Mint. We're raising money now for the Mint. Get there and take a couple of veterans and first responders and put them on the pit crew. One of our other goals is to imagine reliable car trailers, reliable car transport trailers.
Right.
Side trailer. We want to take and raise money to get one of those and convert the front half of the trailer into like a hospitality area and racing simulators, and leave the lifts, the top deck lifts in the trailer, so we can put our pre-runners in, Can-Am and the Ranger, and we can go to a VA hospital or an event and get people that are, veterans and first responders that can't get into a race car because of a physical limitation. Like doctor says, no, you can't get in that race car and go 80 miles an hour across the desert. It's not going to happen. But they can sit in a simulator and enjoy some racing firsthand. Even we're going to have simulators that are hand controls for folks that are in chairs. We're looking at possibly getting actually a couple of Kenworths donated, 1957 Kenworths donated out of Idaho. They're going to be a project, so we're going to need some help building them. But the plan is to have that and be able to go to, tech and contingency at the Mint and right there on Fremont Street and set the truck and trailer up and get folks in the trailer and hand out information on our adrenaline therapy program, or go to a VA hospital and travel the whole Southwest or even further if we can afford it. So that's another one of our dreams, is to be able to travel the U.S. and go to different events and get the motorsports, not just desert racing. I know our name is Outlaw Desert Racing, but we're involved in motorsports. The love of motorsports, whether it's drag racing, desert racing, motocross, supercross, anything that's, rock crawling, ultra four, rock bouncers, the thrill, because, you get behind a bunch of horsepower and do some pretty insane things, from rock crawling to 100-mile-an-hour plus across the whoops in the trophy truck. It's an adrenaline rush.
Absolutely.
So that's our goal, or pretty much our whole circumference is the adrenaline therapy, no matter what motorsport.
Excellent.
We had, during the Host a Veteran Challenge, we had an offshore race team out of Florida want to get involved. So, it went from drag racing on the Host a Veteran Challenge to the desert racing to offshore. Country music artists are starting to bring veterans and stuff behind stage and give them, backstage passes and the whole 9 yards. So we have a lot of support, and we're growing, and if we are able to raise the money to get our goals met and to be able to travel and work with organizations to help, like Martelli's. They've got a great deal with the Mint 400 and with the Veteran Challenge, with the racing class. Veteran teams part of the challenge, and each team races to raise money to help veterans, disabled vets. So that's our goal, is to work closer.
Have you looked into doing anything with the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame?
Sir.
No,
we're not opposed to that.
I support it. I'm always involved with it, but no, we haven't spoke to them on anything yet.
All right, Barbara Rainey, when you listen to this episode, You need to talk with Chris and Drew, and so we can make that happen.
That'd be great, Rich. Thank you for that.
I just think it's really good because there's so many people involved with Ormhoff that are, of course, not only racers, but companies that support the racing, media that supports the racing, and also a lot of veterans that are, involved in that as well, that, could be a good resource for your 501c, but also help even get more of the word out. So I think that would be a good cross that getting you guys together.
Yeah, and we actually work with several other organizations like Battleborn Racing out of Texas, Louisiana, Brian in Louisiana. They take vets and put them in a road racing course. Kara Barron out of the Phoenix Valley. She's got a huge following on Instagram and TikTok, and she's an Air Force veteran in a wheelchair, and she's a racer. She's working with Fields Motorsports this next year, driving their car for the Best in the Desert series, and she's in a wheelchair, just like Chris Blaze with Blaze Racing and racing services out of California. Chris is known for Dakar and stuff before he had his accident. Now he's in a chair and he is kicking tail in a Can-Am side by side with all these different races. And Chris and Patty are wonderful. They're actually one of our sponsors for our Can-Am build that we did.
Excellent.
We also McNeil Racing, McNeil AZ out of Mesa, Arizona. I'm sure you've heard of the McNeils.
Absolutely.
They're all the way from Mexico, Arizona, California. There's a bunch of family involved. God bless the McNeil family. They race the trophy trucks, Class 7, TT Spec. They've been in desert racing all their lives. It's a family tradition. And when the McNeils raced Parker, Arizona, we had the opportunity to have a veteran come out. We were just going to have the family out. The wife said he hadn't smiled in a long time. And Chris got a hold of him and said, hey, come crew with us. We're going to be doing the Class 7 Unlimited race truck. And you're going to crew with us with McNeil and Jeep Speed. And so he got to come out to the pits, and before we knew it, Aaron was in the truck co-driving for a lap. And the McNeils, they put him in there. So they took that veteran for a ride in the race of the Parker 425. And I think it was one of the best experiences he ever had, because now he's happy. He went and bought a UTV. He's always involved now with off-road events. And, they're having a good time. So, and then, the McNeils, the TT Spec, they even let me co-drive in the truck with Kelly McNeil, and just a great family. So race teams like that are getting involved. We have Haskell Wright out of Edgewood, New Mexico. He's going to be racing a Class 10, I think it's Class 10 or Class 12 in the Mint 400. We'll be crewing for him, and he'll also be having some co-drivers. So, yeah, man, a lot of things are just coming together. It's great.
Excellent. So
go ahead. To rehash. Sorry to interrupt, but rehash on Aaron and the Parker 425. He didn't know he was going to get in the truck. So Kelly says, "Hey, let's pick a suit for you, the suit that fits and a helmet that fits." And he's looking at us. He's like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "You're going to get in the truck for a lap on the second lap." And like half an hour later, 45 minutes later, the driver and the crew, the race crew, are walking back to the pits, and I'm looking like, what just happened? Well, a mile or two down after the first lap, after Aaron got in the truck, they blew up the motor, and we're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, it didn't last," And he's like, "No, you guys gave me an experience that," he goes, "I knew this type of racing existed, but," he goes, "I didn't know it existed on this level." And he goes, "I don't care if the motor blew up. This is the funnest thing I've ever done in my life." So, it happens. The attrition rate, as you well know, in this type of racing, whether it's rock crawling or desert racing, the attrition rate is just huge. So, but he had a blast.
Excellent. Excellent. So anything else you guys want to cover that you're doing?
No, I mean, I think, unless Chris wants to mention anything, we're going to keep moving forward. We're coming on strong with the media. GoPro has sponsored us, and we have the new the Max Pros, I believe. Is that what they're called, Chris?
Yeah, the Max 360s and a bunch of mounts. We got a pretty good percentage off on our order. So we ordered 2 Max 360 cams and a ton of accessories and some extra batteries, so we can toss a camera in a car during either pre-run or race and get some in-car footage there. And even when we're doing our weekend rides here locally and taking veterans, we can film it, and they got some memorabilia of their experience. We're continuing forward and trying to raise money to keep doing things we're doing. And we want to, one organization can't reach with like what we do when we're face to face with the veterans. We can't be in everywhere across the United States at one time. So we want to team up with other veteran organizations. So if we get a phone call from North Carolina, I can refer them to David Brunson, who works for CT Raceworks as a Marine veteran. Said, "Hey, Dave, I got a veteran in your area that wants to go out for a ride. Can you assist us?" And he's like, "Yes, I got it." And CT Raceworks steps up and they take the veterans for a ride. But any other veteran nonprofit organization across the United States, we want to team up so we can refer people that contact us. Like Justin Youngman in Flagstaff, Arizona. He runs Change by Nature Outdoors. So if the individual wants to go hunting, Justin takes them hunting. So we refer a lot to Justin. Wicked 7 Outdoors in Texas is a hunting guide. They're one of our sponsors, and they'll take a veteran hunting. So also, not just motorsports even. We want to team up. It's anything to help veterans and first responders and work as a collective team to help instead of it's like competition. We don't want to be in competition with another nonprofit that's helping, because we can further our reach and help more people if we all just teamed up.
Right. Okay. And how do people get in touch with you to help you guys out?
We've got our website, outlawdesertracing.com. They can fill out the contact form there or reach out to us on Facebook. Instagram is outlaw_desert_racing. I don't know why, but we started a TikTok. It's like we didn't need another social media platform to further our daily workload, but we did. It's slowly growing, the TikTok thing. We're still kind of learning that. It's quite a bit different than the other platforms. LinkedIn, on LinkedIn, we have a YouTube channel. We're still trying to figure that out, and we're getting better as we learn video editing. And now that we've got some good equipment from GoPro, we can provide some better quality videos versus just the phones. But there's several ways: the social media, the website, and our phone numbers are listed on the website and Facebook page. So we're looking forward to 23 and what we can do and further our reach.
Excellent. Well, guys, I want to say thank you for kicking off the New Year's with us. And that's 2023. I don't know where you're at, but right now we finally got sun after a lot of days of raining. We've gotten like 16 or 17 inches of rain over the last 3 days here in Northern California.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, all sorts of flooding and stuff around Placerville, El Dorado Hills.
Wow.
And this area. So we're drying out today, which is good. Hopefully you guys are going to have a great, outstanding 2023, and wish you guys all the luck. And if there's anything that we can do, me or Shelly, to help you further your guys' cause, please get in touch with us and let us know.
Wow, thank you very much. And I just wanted to say, last but least, I want to thank all the Outlaw volunteers over the years that have always helped us and come out to our events. And, they always come. They always want to help us with the veterans and first responders. All the shows we put on, just the generosity and the people come out. I just want to say thank you. And also the originators of Outlaw Desert Racing, Kevin Barton, he was part of the original Outlaw Desert Racing James gang back in the day. And that's how he brought that over, Outlaw Desert Racing. And it's just stuck ever since. And him and Ted Gilbert, Troy Gilbert, Bill Delaney, all those guys, they're the originals that helped create this and paved the path for us. So thank you very much to all of them.
Excellent. Well, guys, thank you so much. And here's to a great 2023.
Sure. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.